Welcome to the weekly dose of Emuna for Shabbat Kodesh. Today we're going to talk about Shabbat. Is she a bride or is she a queen? What we're going to attempt to see is whether the idea of Shabbat, we understand it cannot be personified as a human attribute. But what we'd like to do is to see how the divine attribute comes and relates to us, and trying to understand how Hashem's presence comes down. What does it exactly mean? How do we interact with Hashem's presence? And so what we're going to see here, that whether Hashem is, so to speak, personified as a bride or as a queen, what we're really going to see is it represents the idea that Hashem has, so to speak, a deep need for love, to express his love between herself, himself, and us, the Jewish people. What happens on Shabbat Kodesh is the presence of Hashem permeates the entire world, and it's open for the soul of the Jewish soul to come and envelop and embrace it. In fact, what we see here is that the Shabbat Kodesh, the Erev Shabbat, the name of the service is actually called Kabbalat Shabbat. So what does that exactly mean? What is the Kabbalah, the word Kabbalah? What does it exactly refer to? So it could refer either to the idea of taking upon oneself an obligation, for instance, to cease working or to rest. And it also could mean, Kabbalah could mean to greet or to welcome, to receive, and that would be to welcome, to receive the idea of the bride. And so what we see here is that in essence, the answer really means both. Shabbat Kodesh is a queen and is a bride, both in the same meaning. What it means is that on Shabbat Kodesh, in addition to accepting the sovereignty of the presence of the queen, we also welcome the presence of the day, which is basically welcoming the day as a bride. And so we look at the day of Shabbat as sort of like a cosmic wedding of Hashem, between Hashem and the Jewish people, Hashem and creation. Shabbat is seen as the bride, and you could see this by, there's one particular pasuk in Bereshit where it says that Hashem, so to speak, finishes the seventh day. The terminology that's used for finished is Vayakal. Vayakal has the root in it, Kala, the bride. And so from here you could see sort of a mystical twist that Hashem, so to speak, refers to the seventh day as a Kala, as a bride. In addition, Shabbat as the bride, in terms of the idea of this sort of mystical wedding between Hashem and creation, what it does for us, the Jewish people, is it makes our home serve as the chuppah, the site of the wedding reception. And that is one of the reasons why on Shabbat Kodesh we pay so much great attention to beautifying the house, bringing flowers, and serving, of course, a delicious meal. In addition, another thing we tend to do, of course, and is very acceptable, an acceptable custom to do, is to drape the house in as much of a white color as possible, right? The tablecloth is white, bringing white flowers, the candlesticks are white, because of course we know symbolically that white represents purity, just like we wear white on Yom Kippur. So on a spiritual level, white is considered to be sort of like a transformation aspect of the soul, where the soul sort of transcends its physical connection in this world and sort of bears away from it and tries to achieve transformation and elevation to come closer to its source. And that's why Shabbat is, so to speak, a white wedding, right? With the white tablecloths and the candles, and some even communities have a minhag to wear white clothing. So when we approach Shabbat Kodesh, Be'ezrat Hashem, let's look at it as our approaching this beautiful wedding, and that our home is this magnificent, magnificent wedding hall that's adorned with everything gorgeous to make up the most gorgeous meeting and unity, unification between Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Shechina Kadosha, and Am Yisrael, and Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll be able to look at Shabbat Kodesh in a different way, in a more lovely, romantic, sort of intimate setting, and accept Shabbat Kodesh as a day of such intense and personal closeness. Have a wonderful Shabbat.